The world doesn't change when you feel inspired. It changes when you act with discipline. Motivation is a spark. Bright, loud, and fleeting. Discipline is the fire that keeps burning long after the spark fades. That's why the people who build empires, the ones whose names echo across centuries, were not the most motivated. They were the most disciplined. They moved when the world slept. They worked when their minds whispered, "Rest." They stood tall when storms came. And in that stillness, in that relentless commitment, they built everything motivation alone never could. The truth is simple and brutal. Motivation is emotional. It's loud. It's intoxicating. It makes you feel like you can conquer the world, for an hour. But when the weight of the real world presses on your shoulders, when the excitement fades and the silence of the early morning confronts you, motivation disappears. Discipline remains. Discipline isn't about feelings. It's about decisions. It's about the contract you make with yourself when no one is watching. It's about doing what must be done not because you feel like it but because it is necessary. Think of Thomas Edison. Thousands of failed experiments didn't stop him. Motivation could never sustain that. Discipline did. Night after night, he returned to his lab, testing, failing, testing again. The world remembers the light bulb. But what made that light shine was not a single moment of inspiration. It was years of disciplined, tireless work. Or look at Henry Ford. When the world mocked his idea of putting the common man behind the wheel, when factories broke down, when costs soared, it wasn't a speech that kept him going. It was his discipline. It was his unwavering commitment to a vision even when the world refused to see it. Motivation whispers to you when the sun is shining. Discipline walks with you when the night is cold and endless. Discipline doesn't ask if you're tired. It doesn't care if the world is unfair. It doesn't listen to excuses. It expects movement. It demands action. And if you give yourself fully to it, it gives you everything motivation never can: progress, power, control, and results. This is why the great divide between the dreamers and the doers has never been motivation. Everyone gets inspired. Everyone feels the fire once in a while. But only a few rise at dawn when their bones ache, when doubt fills the room, when the easy road calls their name. Those are the ones who become legends. The others, they wait for the spark to return. It never does. You see, discipline is the architect of destiny. It builds the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Without it, dreams remain soft, fragile things that float in the air and die with the morning sun. With it, dreams harden into reality. Discipline is the language of kings, inventors, warriors, and creators. It's what turned farms into industries, ideas into empires, men into immortals. When Abraham Lincoln faced defeat after defeat, he didn't wait for motivation to strike again. He stood, broken and bleeding, and walked forward anyway. When Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination, he didn't retreat into bitterness. He returned to his desk and drew again. Discipline gave them the power to endure when the applause had not yet come. In every life, there comes a moment when motivation dies, when the music stops, when the crowd goes home. And in that silence, your future is decided. Will you stop, or will you continue walking through the storm? Will you be the person who only works when they feel good, or the one who builds regardless of emotion? This choice defines everything. Motivation belongs to the moment. Discipline belongs to eternity. The most dangerous lie we tell ourselves is that we need to feel ready to begin, that we must wait for the right mood, the right energy, the right spark. But the great builders of history never waited for permission from their emotions. They moved first. The feeling followed. When Edison struck flint in the dark, the light didn't appear because he felt inspired. It appeared because he refused to quit. When Andrew Carnegie built steel empires, he didn't rise every morning to motivational speeches. He rose because the world needed steel, and he was the one who would build it. And so must you. You must understand, the world doesn't reward those who wait for the perfect wave. It rewards those who build their own tide. Motivation can get you to the gym once. Discipline builds the body. Motivation can help you start a business. Discipline keeps it alive when the orders don't come, when the sleepless nights stretch into weeks, when fear whispers that maybe you're not enough. Motivation can make you dream. Discipline turns the dream into a contract with reality. The secret isn't in trying to stay motivated forever. That's a fool's game. The secret is mastering yourself even when the fire dies. Especially when the fire dies. Because that's when greatness is forged. Not when it's easy, but when it's impossible. That is the crucible where character is born. The world is full of people who started. Few finish. Fewer still endure the in-between, that long, quiet road where no one claps, no one sees, and no one believes. Discipline walks that road without asking for applause. Some mornings, you will wake up heavy. The world will press down on your chest. Doubt will whisper its poisonous lullabies. And motivation will not save you. But discipline will. It will make your feet touch the floor even when your soul trembles. It will make your hands work when your mind screams, "Not today." It will build you into something unbreakable. The greatest lie ever sold is that success is glamorous, that it's a perfect sunrise, soft music, and endless energy. But true success is quiet. It's made in the stillness of routine. It's built in lonely rooms where no one claps, no one watches, and no one understands. It's forged in the rhythm of discipline. The same steps again and again, until the world has no choice but to notice. Discipline does not shout. It doesn't shine. It doesn't seduce. But it conquers. Empires are not built in bursts of inspiration. They are carved in stone with calloused hands. And here lies the truth most will never accept. Motivation is for amateurs. Discipline is for those who build legacies. Look at the life of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in a cell. Not motivated. Not inspired. Disciplined. He rose each day, even when hope was faint, even when no one could see the future he carried in his chest. And when the walls finally fell, it was not because motivation had returned. It was because discipline had never left. This is the power within you too. Discipline is not gifted. It is forged. It is chosen. It is built brick by brick, day after day. And the beautiful thing, anyone can build it. You don't need to be born with it. You need only decide. Decide that your dreams matter more than your feelings. That your purpose is bigger than your mood. There will be days when your mind tries to bargain with you. It will say, "Just rest today." It will say, "You've done enough." But you will remember, discipline isn't about winning once. It's about showing up forever. And in that showing up, in that relentless return, your life transforms. Discipline doesn't chase perfection. It chases consistency. It understands that one imperfect day repeated 1,000 times builds a monument that one perfect day never could. Motivation needs the perfect moment. Discipline builds the perfect moment through relentless imperfection. Every legend you've ever heard of walked this road. Michael Jordan didn't shoot hoops because he felt like it. He shot because it was required. Serena Williams didn't rise to greatness on bursts of energy. She rose through years of deliberate repetition. The world remembers the trophies. They forget the mornings when their hands bled. And this is what makes discipline powerful. It makes you dangerous. Not dangerous to others, but to the excuses that once ruled you. Dangerous to the habits that held you back. Dangerous to the voice that once whispered, "You can't." You become the storm. When you understand discipline, you stop waiting. You stop chasing emotions. You build momentum brick by brick, until the world bends under your persistence. Discipline gives you something motivation never can: power over yourself. And the person who commands themselves commands their destiny. This is not easy. It was never meant to be. But the beauty of discipline is that it doesn't require ease. It only requires obedience. To your vision. To your purpose. To the quiet promise you made to yourself. And here lies the turning point most people miss. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the path to it. The undisciplined live as prisoners of their emotions, dragged in every direction by every passing feeling. The disciplined stand as architects of their fate. They build their lives instead of reacting to them. They don't hope for the storm to pass, they learn to walk in the rain. Freedom isn't found in doing whatever you feel like. It's found in mastering the part of you that resists doing what must be done. Discipline gives you that mastery. It's the invisible force behind every empire, every invention, every song that still echoes through history. It's the reason why some names are remembered and others are forgotten. The undisciplined chase comfort. The disciplined chase greatness. There will be days when the world offers you soft beds and louder distractions. When the easy path seems almost righteous. But every great soul knew this moment. Alexander the Great faced it when empires stood in his way. Leonardo da Vinci faced it when the world laughed at ideas that would later change humanity. Elon Musk faced it when rockets exploded before they ever reached the sky. And on those days, what kept them moving was not a cheer, not a rush of feeling, but discipline. That cold, quiet, unshakable commitment to keep going. Motivation comes dressed in gold. It shines. It dances. It whispers, "You can do it." Discipline comes in silence. It does not beg to be noticed. It simply stands at the door of your destiny, asking, "Will you show up?" That's the test. Not once. Every day. The champions of this world did not win because they were the most inspired. They won because they kept showing up when others didn't. You cannot build a life worth living on the shifting sands of emotion. Emotions change with the wind. Discipline builds stone foundations. It doesn't ask permission from your mood. It acts regardless. And in that, it gives you something priceless: control. Control over your time. Control over your habits. Control over your future. This is why those who build discipline rise above the noise. They're not swayed by trends, not derailed by setbacks, not paralyzed by doubt. Discipline becomes their armor. It shields them from distraction. It allows them to see clearly when others are blinded by temporary feelings. It gives them a compass when motivation is nowhere to be found. Do not misunderstand. Motivation has its place. It can ignite the fire. But discipline is the one that keeps it burning through the longest nights. It's easy to begin when the crowd cheers. It's harder to begin when no one is watching, when the only applause is the sound of your own footsteps. But that's where true power is forged, in the quiet repetition that no one sees. Remember this: the people you admire most didn't get there by accident. They bled for it. They endured for it. They became the kind of people who move mountains because they mastered themselves first. Discipline is not a skill. It's a habit. And habits build worlds. The mind will try to trick you. It will say, "Just today, take it easy." It will say, "You deserve a break." And sometimes rest is needed. But more often, these are the whispers that steal destinies. The disciplined know the difference between rest and retreat, between recovery and surrender. They do not bow to weakness disguised as comfort. This is what separates a fleeting spark from an eternal flame. Discipline is not glamorous. It's the early alarm in the darkness. It's the extra hour when everyone else goes home. It's the decision to try again after failure. It's boring, repetitive, uncelebrated. And that is precisely why it works. Because while the undisciplined chase novelty, the disciplined build mastery. And mastery is what moves the world. Think of Bruce Lee, who once said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. That is discipline. The repetition that turns ordinary into extraordinary. The patience that turns rust into steel. When the world sees the result, they call it talent. When they see the victory, they call it luck. But they do not see the years of disciplined, thankless work beneath the surface. They do not hear the silent mornings, the whispered "just one more," the lonely hours when no one believed. They only see the peak, not the climb. But you will know. You will know that it was discipline, not magic, not motivation that carried you there. Discipline is not about being perfect. It's about refusing to quit, even on the worst days. Especially on the worst days. When everything falls apart, when your hands shake, when fear screams in your ear. that is when discipline proves its worth. Because it will not let you break. It will hold you upright when your emotions betray you. And it will betray you. There will be mornings when you feel worthless. When your dreams feel foolish. When your progress feels invisible. When the weight of the climb seems unbearable. And in that moment, discipline will be your last ally. It will whisper, just take the next step. And when you do, even if it's small, you rise. That is the power of disciplined action. It doesn't need a perfect plan. It doesn't wait for courage. It simply moves. And movement builds momentum. Momentum builds change. And change builds empires. Every great revolution began with a disciplined few who moved forward when others froze. Every masterpiece was born in the quiet hours of unseen labor. Every dream worth living requires sacrifice on the altar of discipline. This is the truth most refuse to face. Discipline hurts. It demands. It strips away your illusions and confronts you with who you really are. But it also shapes you into something greater than you imagined. It turns your life from reaction into creation. From drifting to directing. Most people live like leaves in the wind, tossed around by their moods, their fears, their distractions. But those who master discipline become the wind itself. They choose their path. They command their time. They shape their destiny with every deliberate action. The undisciplined look for comfort. The disciplined look for growth. And growth is never comfortable. Discipline is the weapon of warriors, builders, creators, and leaders. It is the quiet storm behind every unstoppable force. It teaches you to walk when you can't run, to crawl when you can't walk, to move when standing still feels easier. And in doing so, it makes you invincible. There's a story buried inside every person who refused to quit. A story of mornings that felt unbearable, of nights where sleep never came, of setbacks that would have broken anyone else. But discipline is what turned those stories into legends. It's what made ordinary men and women into giants. This is why discipline will give you everything motivation won't. Motivation gives you a glimpse. Discipline gives you the throne. Motivation gives you energy. Discipline gives you power. Motivation gives you a spark. Discipline gives you the forge. And the forge is where greatness is made. The forge is not a gentle place. It's hot. It's relentless. It breaks the weak and hardens the strong. Discipline is that forge. It will test you, burn away your excuses, strip you down to your core, and rebuild you into something unshakable. The fire does not care about your feelings. It only recognizes those who stay. That is why so few make it to the other side. Most people fall in love with the idea of success, but only the disciplined fall in love with the process. The process is where the real transformation happens. The world celebrates the outcome, but discipline celebrates the journey. Think of Winston Churchill. He led a nation through war not because he was motivated every day, but because he was anchored in discipline. When bombs fell and cities burned, when every speech could have been his last, he rose anyway. Not because it was easy, not because he felt like it, but because discipline left him no other choice. That's what real power looks like. Quiet, unyielding, ruthless in its consistency. Or consider Oprah Winfrey. Her story is not one of constant motivation. It's one of relentless discipline through pain, rejection, and hardship. Every obstacle she faced was met with steady forward movement. No matter how small the step, she took it. And those steps, not bursts of inspiration, built an empire. Discipline has a way of turning ordinary people into forces the world can't ignore. This is the great misunderstanding. People think greatness is born in a single moment, a flash of genius, a fiery speech, a lucky break. But greatness is not a moment. It's a lifetime of disciplined moments, stacked like bricks. A single act of discipline may seem small, insignificant even, but repeated over time, it moves mountains. Discipline is invisible in the beginning. No one notices it. But when the walls rise high enough, the world stares in awe, calling it genius. They see the castle. They never see the laying of every stone. Every morning you wake up, you are given a choice. The path of comfort or the path of discipline. One will give you momentary pleasure. The other will give you everything you ever dreamed of. Discipline is not glamorous in the moment. It's often lonely, quiet, repetitive. But that's where strength is born. Not in the noise, but in the silence. The world loves the story of the comeback but ignores the years of daily discipline that made that comeback possible. They love to talk about how someone rose from nothing but rarely speak of the nights spent in solitude, battling doubt, fear, and exhaustion. That's the part no one celebrates, but it's the only part that matters. Because that's the part where winners are made. Motivation can make you lift the sword. Discipline makes you sharpen it every day, even when the war hasn't come yet. It's easy to swing when the crowd is cheering. It's harder to train in the dark when no one is watching. But the warriors who train in silence are the ones who win the battles the world never sees coming. Discipline is a kind of faith. Not in the world, not in the crowd, but in yourself. It's the belief that your actions today will create the tomorrow you deserve. Even when you can't see it. Even when nothing seems to work. Even when everything in you screams to stop. It is faith in your own becoming. But discipline also demands something few are willing to give. Patience. This world has taught people to want everything fast. Instant rewards. Instant recognition. Instant success. But discipline laughs at instant. It lives in the long game. It's the art of planting seeds and tending to them when the soil looks barren. It's the trust that the roots are growing, even when nothing is visible above the ground. Think of J.K. Rowling writing in cafes, rejected again and again. The world didn't believe in her story, but her discipline did. Think of Colonel Harlan Sanders, who was turned down more than 1,000 times before his recipe changed the world. Motivation couldn't carry them through that. Only discipline could. There's a strange magic in discipline, the kind that motivation can never give. Discipline makes you do the thing once, twice, 1,000 times until it no longer depends on how you feel. It becomes a part of you, a reflex, a rhythm, a way of breathing. That's when you become dangerous. Because nothing can stop a person who doesn't wait to feel good before they act. The undisciplined wake up and ask, "How do I feel today?" The disciplined wake up and say, "What must be done today?" One lives in reaction. The other lives in creation. And creation is the language of conquerors. Motivation relies on emotion. Discipline builds identity. When discipline becomes who you are, you no longer need to force yourself to act, you simply act. Just as a lion does not need to remind itself to hunt, the disciplined do not need to be reminded to build, to fight, to rise. It's in their nature. They've forged it through thousands of repeated choices. Discipline will make you respected by others, but more importantly, it will make you respect yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you build trust with the person in the mirror. And that trust is the foundation of unshakable confidence. It's not the loud kind of confidence that shouts for attention. It's the silent, dangerous kind that moves through the world like steel beneath silk. When you trust yourself to follow through, the world bends differently around you. Opportunities find you not because you're lucky but because you're ready. Discipline doesn't chase luck. It creates it. The undisciplined stand at the shore, waiting for the perfect wave. The disciplined build the ship, set the sail, and conquer the sea. Discipline also frees you. That may sound like a contradiction, but it's the truth. Motivation leaves you chained to your moods. Discipline cuts the chain. When you're disciplined, you don't wait for the perfect day to act. Every day becomes the perfect day to act. You own your time. You own your energy. You own your direction. The world is full of dreamers who could have built empires if they had chosen discipline over comfort. Every book unwritten, every song unsung, every invention forgotten. They all died in the space between inspiration and action. That space is discipline's domain. Those who conquer it shape history. The disciplined don't chase the high of feeling good. They chase the satisfaction of becoming great. There is no high that can compare to looking back at years of relentless, disciplined effort and seeing a legacy standing where once there was only an idea. That's the kind of fulfillment motivation will never give you. This is why discipline will always outlast motivation. Because discipline doesn't burn out. It doesn't depend on applause. It doesn't vanish when the storms come. It stands like a mountain. And mountains do not move for feelings. They move for those who climb. The mountain doesn't shout. It doesn't beg to be conquered. It simply waits, eternal and unmoving, testing who truly desires the summit. Motivation brings you to the base. Discipline carries you to the peak. Every step is small. Every breath burns. But the climb itself transforms you. That's what discipline does. It builds you through the repetition of effort, the daily decision to rise when it would be easier to fall back into comfort. Look at bending over his experiments night after night, or burning through countless hours in a dim lab. They didn't need external fire. They were the fire. That's what happens when discipline takes hold. It stops being punishment and becomes identity. You no longer say, "I must do this." You say, "This is who I am." Discipline is the quiet builder of miracles. It's what made a poor boy from Michigan invent the automobile, what made a rejected artist paint ceilings that would outlive empires, what made a frail clerk in India lead a revolution through nothing but will. It is the hand that lifts nations and the whisper that tells you, even here, even now, continue. You will not always feel strong. You will doubt yourself. You will fail. Discipline is the rope that pulls you from those dark valleys. When your vision blurs, it keeps your feet moving. When fear claws at your heart, it gives you one more breath, one more swing, one more sunrise. That's why it will give you everything motivation won't. Because it endures. Motivation dies in discomfort. Discipline is born there. Each day you practice it, the chains of weakness loosen. Each day you choose it, your world expands. The mind learns that it is not a slave to feeling but a commander of action. That is the essence of power. Not control over others, but control over self. The disciplined person can shape time itself, can build when others wait, can rest without guilt, can face chaos with calm eyes. So tomorrow, when the alarm rings and the voice inside whispers, "Not today," remember this, that whisper is the test. Every not today you overcome becomes a brick in the fortress of your future. Every small act of discipline compounds, quietly, invisibly, until one day the world calls you unstoppable. Not because you always felt ready, but because you never needed to. Discipline will not make your path easy, but it will make you capable. It will not promise comfort, but it will deliver meaning. And meaning is worth more than comfort ever could be. So stand up. Face the day. Build the habit. Keep the promise. Because in the end, when the lights fade and the crowd is gone, the one thing that remains, the one force that never abandons you, is the discipline you forged. It is the truest friend of greatness, the silent architect of every victory, the bridge between who you are and who you were born to become. Discipline is the bridge, and every step you take upon it is a declaration. I will not be ruled by my moods, my fears, or my doubts. I will be ruled by my decisions. Every sunrise you rise to meet, every task you complete without applause, every time you keep moving when no one believes in you, those are the invisible victories that shape the visible future. That's the law of life that most never understand. It's not the loudest who win. It's not the most excited. It's the most disciplined. When Nelson Mandela woke up in a cell for the 10,000th time, there was no rush of inspiration. There was no music swelling in the background. But he rose. He stood. He endured. When Michael Jordan missed thousands of shots, it wasn't a crowd's roar that made him return to the court. It was discipline. When Steve Jobs faced rejection, when his own company cast him aside, he didn't wait for motivation to find him. He built. Again. Discipline carried them all. This is the part the world doesn't celebrate. The grind in the shadows, the choices no one claps for, the patience that feels endless. People will tell you they admire greatness. What they often mean is they admire the result. But the truth is, greatness isn't found in the spotlight. It's forged in the quiet, in the repetitions, in the years of disciplined action long before anyone cares. Discipline turns ordinary mornings into sacred rituals. It turns daily habits into monuments. It transforms pain into power and doubt into steel. When you understand this, the world becomes less about what happens to you and more about what you build from it. The storm doesn't dictate your direction anymore. You become the storm. There will come nights when you question everything. When your reflection looks like a stranger. When the path ahead disappears in fog and silence. Motivation will abandon you in those moments. But discipline will not. It will take your trembling hand, pull you forward one step at a time and whisper, "This is how legends are made." Legends aren't made in bursts of fire. They're forged in steady heat. They don't rise in moments of excitement. They rise in moments of obedience to their vision. And that vision is fed, not by emotion, but by disciplined action. Discipline is a promise to your future self that you will not leave them empty-handed. That when they look back, they will see a trail of work, a foundation of habits, a fortress of resilience. You will either suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. One builds you. The other haunts you. Every time you silence the voice that says, "Not today," you grow stronger. Every time you act without needing to feel ready, your power multiplies. It's not about massive leaps. It's about relentless steps. Over and over. Until the world bends around your consistency. This is why discipline is dangerous. It makes you unstoppable. It removes the need for permission. It silences doubt not with words but with action. When others stop, you continue. When others wait, you build. When others hope, you become. The world doesn't belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most disciplined. To those who stay when the feeling fades. To those who plant seeds when the ground looks dry. To those who rise when everything says to fall. So if today feels heavy, good. That's where your power is born. That's where the world separates the temporary from the eternal. The crowd from the creators. The motivated from the disciplined. When you build discipline, you build the rarest thing in this world, certainty in yourself. And a person certain in themselves cannot be controlled, cannot be broken, cannot be stopped. They become a force, quiet but inevitable. Discipline will give you everything motivation won't. Consistency, identity, power, respect, freedom, legacy. The spark fades. The fire remains. The fire remains. It's steady, patient, unshakable. Discipline doesn't flare up in moments of excitement. It lives in the marrow of your bones. It's not a feeling. It's a force. When you truly understand that, your life begins to change in ways that are irreversible. Because when you become disciplined, you stop waiting for the world to hand you what you want. You build it with your own two hands. When Thomas Edison failed thousands of times, discipline told him, "Try again." When Abraham Lincoln lost election after election, discipline said, "Stand taller." When Serena Williams rose before dawn for decades, swinging the same racket over and over, discipline was the voice that never wavered. That's the difference between the temporary and the timeless. The temporary waits for the right moment. The timeless creates it. Discipline doesn't care how tired you are. It doesn't ask if you're in the mood. It doesn't need the perfect plan. It requires one thing, that you show up. Over and over. Until showing up is no longer a battle, but a reflex. That is when you become truly unstoppable. When your actions are not dictated by emotion but by identity. Because discipline isn't just something you do. It's something you become. The writer who writes every day, even when the page is cold and empty, becomes an author. The athlete who trains in the dark becomes a champion. The builder who lays bricks in silence creates a kingdom. That's the gift discipline gives. It turns dreams into identities. People spend their lives chasing motivation like a mirage. They wait for the perfect spark, the right alignment, the sign. But the ones who build legacies know the truth. The sign is the work itself. The spark is irrelevant. The act of striking again and again is what sets the fire ablaze. There will be seasons when everything feels heavy. When no one claps. When no one believes. When even you question whether it's worth it. But those are the seasons that separate the wishers from the doers. Discipline doesn't need the crowd. It thrives in silence. It grows in solitude. It sharpens itself in the dark. And then one day it explodes into the light. The world will call it overnight success. But you will know the truth. It was not one night. It was every night. It was every morning you rose while the world slept. Every time you pushed when your mind screamed, enough. Every time you held the line when your feelings begged you to retreat. Discipline will outlast every storm. It will outlast every doubt. It will outlast every season of emptiness. Because discipline isn't fragile, it is forged. It is muscle built through repetition, scar tissue built through endurance. When others burn out, discipline endures. When others crumble, discipline stands. When others hope, discipline acts. And in a world where most stop at the first obstacle, the one who continues becomes unstoppable. Understand this. Greatness doesn't belong to the chosen few. It belongs to the consistent few. The few who were willing to do what needed to be done, even when they didn't want to. The few who were willing to be uncomfortable for as long as it took. You will not feel powerful every day. You will not feel inspired every morning. But if you are disciplined, you don't need to. Because power isn't in the feeling, it's in the doing. Every action you take while tired, doubting, hurting, that's where your edge is carved. Discipline teaches you to rise without permission, to work without applause, to believe without evidence, to endure without guarantees. That is why it creates leaders, builders, revolutionaries, legends. And one day someone will look at you and say, "You're so lucky." But luck has nothing to do with it. They didn't see the mornings, the late nights, the silent wars, the discipline that held everything together when nothing made sense. So keep going. When it's hard, when it's quiet, when it's thankless, keep going. Because discipline doesn't promise you easy. It promises you everything motivation never could. It promises you growth, mastery, power, freedom. The undisciplined live as prisoners of their emotions. The disciplined live as architects of their destiny. And destiny does not respond to wishful thinking. It answers to relentless action. One day you'll look back and realize it wasn't one grand act that changed your life. It was thousands of small disciplined moments stacked quietly, patiently, like bricks. And those bricks became your empire. The spark dies. The applause fades. The crowd disperses. But discipline remains. It always remains.